we are going to talk about Alzheimer's, dementia. And this is what we're going to cover today. Some basic understanding about the different types of dementia. What's normal aging? What's a dementia? Some people think, I lost my keys, I forget where things are, I have dementia, I have Alzheimer's. That is getting more commonly known. So we're going to talk about the different types and the differences and the stages. And at the end, we're going to talk about some caregiving issues, managing difficult behavior. And that by itself could be a talk in itself. So I'm just going to touch a little bit on different topics. Okay, so there's a lot of research out there. Can it be prevented? It's really not known whether it could be prevented or not. There's a lot of information, a lot of research that's going on. At least the research that's relevant is that some people say that in order to delay the onset of dementia for some people, there's some studies that have shown that controlling or the glucose levels in your blood, basically diabetes, controlling your diabetes, is a factor in trying to prevent dementia. Other studies have shown that people who engage in different stimuli, talking about like social interactions, crossword puzzles, playing musical instruments, delay the onset of dementia. This is something that's different studies that are out there that are looking at whether it can be prevented. Other prevention action include lowering homocysteine, which is the amino acid in the blood. And there's a lot of factors in that when you think about exercise, with lowering your blood pressure, cholesterol level, etc. So, memory. What is memory? Acquisition. You start, from childhood, you start learning different things. This is where you listen, you concentrate on what is being said, what you hear, what information is sent to your brain. And then what happens to your brain? You store that information in your brain. And when you need it, you retrieve it. What is normal aging? So our memory does not change very much as we get older, except in these three areas. Okay? It takes more time to learn new information. So if you're learning a new language when you're 70 versus when you're 30, you may need a little bit more time. It takes a little bit longer, but you'll learn it. It takes more time to recall or retrieve information. So if you say, I can't remember the name of the movie, or I can't remember the person's name, but 30 minutes later, you would remember. People have more of a tendency to be distracted as people get older. So have you ever started to do something in the kitchen or boil water for coffee, and the phone rings, you go to a different room, and then you go, like, I was doing something. You talk on the phone, but then you say, I was doing something. And it may burn, or you may smell it when you're talking on the phone, and then you remember, I gotta go, you go back. So serious memory problems are not part of healthy aging. Okay, so what is dementia? Dementia is a neurological disease that affects your ability to speak, reason, remember, and move, and is progressive. Dementia is not an expected part of aging. Some people say people get older and they're going to develop certain types of problems with their memory. Cognitive impairment and dementia are due to the process of a disease. So there are numerous distinct diseases process which can lead to dementia. A consistent problem with memory. So what happens when someone has a dementia? They have problems with language, aphasia. They have problems with their speech. They have problems recognizing things. Problems with executive functioning. And when people have more problems with executive functioning and have dementia, is sometimes when more people are, something happens where family or other friends know there's changes in this person. They're not the way they used to be. personality, their memory, their behavior, all of that changes. And oftentimes it's more towards the middle stage when people recognize that the person is having more problems and go for evaluations. So significant impairment in functioning representing a decline. I have a few charts there, and we'll talk about the difference with Alzheimer's and vascular, where Alzheimer's is a progressive illness over time. The 10 warning signs. The Alzheimer's Association has 10 warning signs. Forgetting recently learned information is one of the most commonly early signs of dementia. So a person begins to forget more often and is unable to recall the information later. So that is a memory problem or memory loss versus what is normally, you could forget what my name is because, you just met me, for example, or you don't see somebody for a long time and you may forget their names. That's normal. It happens to everybody. Difficulty doing familiar tasks. So people with dementia often find it hard to plan or complete everyday tasks. Individuals may lose track of what's going on. Prepare a meal, like we were talking before, someone calls, they prepare a meal, they do something, and they have difficulties in this. So what's a normal type of a task that happens to a lot of people? Occasionally forgetting why you came into a room. Go into a room and like, why did I come? I came here for a reason. And then, but then you would think about it and you remember what you did. Problems talking or writing. So what's a dementia? People with Alzheimer's forget simple words, so they would substitute it. Some people would start having a conversation with somebody and they would make up words or they would forget words in the middle of a conversation. Confusion about time and place, and this is a very common one. Confusion about time and place.
But I'm laughing because they say seniors, they have Alzheimer's, everything. But sometimes I'm gonna do something and say, oh my God, I was gonna do, I forgot what I was gonna do.
And that's with concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Concentration.
And some people they put in the salt like here, put it in the fridge. Even the iron, I know this girl, and she's young. She put the iron, and then she was looking for the iron waiting inside the fridge.
In the fridge.
Are you talking about short-term memory or long-term memory?
Well, now I'm talking about short-term memories.
Okay.
Because oftentimes people who have Alzheimer's have more problems with their short-term memory because the neurons that affect that. The reason why someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's is because they have plaques or it affects the protein or the neurons in their brain, and it usually attacks the short-term memory. So people have more problems with short-term memory versus long-term memory, and as the illness progresses, it would affect their long-term memories. So confusion with time and place. They could get lost in their neighborhood. They forget how to get back home. This is just a sign. It could be that someone is stressed, they're working, they're doing a lot of different things. They may get disoriented. So, busy things that are going on, that's normal. But that's just a sign. So if someone says, oh, I got lost in my neighborhood where I lived for 30 years or 50 years, that could be like a warning sign, like, okay, we need to talk about what else is going on in the person's life. Lost in judgment is a big one. People with Alzheimer's may dress inappropriately. In the winter, they may think it's summer. In the summer, they could think it's winter. It's just an example of a warning sign. What's normal? Making a questionable or debatable decision from time to time. That's normal. And loss in judgment also, people get caught up in scams. Or they would go to the store and give money away. And different examples like that. Problems with abstract thinking. Again, people with Alzheimer's may have unusual difficulties performing complex mental tasks, like forgetting what numbers are and how they should be used. Abstract thinking. So if you think about, let's say, neurologist or doctor may say, okay, I want to see how your abstract thinking is, or calculation, or not calculation, calculation and concentration. That's a warning sign if the person is having more problems, if they can't really focus on different things. Complex mental tasks. And once in a while you could forget to pay something or balance something. But if you forget to pay your electric light, or you forget to pay your rent, or mortgage, then it's a big warning sign. Misplacing things. We were talking just about this. Misplacing things. So people could put things in unusual places. An iron in the freezer. Put your wristwatch in the sugar bowl. So it's okay to forget where your keys are, where you misplace certain things, but when you think about doing, misplacing things, going and finding your shoes in the freezer, or hiding money, that comes into other situations where the person is more paranoid or suspicious with caregivers, with family members. They misplace where they put their money, and they think somebody took it from them. Changes in mood or behavior. Rapid mood changes, swings. They get calm, they start crying, they're happy for no reason. And that's us, again, a warning sign. Mood changes. And I'll go back to, the three things about dementia is memory, behavior, and personality changes. And what's normal? Occasionally forgetting, occasionally feeling sad. Changes in personality. People with dementia have dramatic changes. They become extremely confused, suspicious, and usually suspicious towards the family members who are taking care of them. Fearful. And what's normal? So people's personality do change sometimes with age. So the way you were when you were 20, when you were 50, when you're 70, when you're 90, it's totally going to be different. So a person with Alzheimer's may become very passive, sitting in front of the TV. And a lot of elderly people who have dementia sometimes do sit in front of the TV for a long time if they don't go to a program or they don't have stimulation at home. But sitting in front of the TV is one of the...
Couldn't that be part of depression?
Exactly, that's also a part. It could be a part of depression. And that's why this is just a sign that it could be dementia, because part of evaluating for dementia is doing a depression screen as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when the person is so severely depressed, they have memory loss. Someone who's suicidal, who cries, who's hopeless, helpless, it would affect. So this is what, this is from a scan of the brain. Normal brain, where you see the neurons and all the neurons, and this is the Alzheimer's brain, and you see the plaques, and you see the tangles in the neurons, that it affects their ability to communicate with each other. And everybody has millions of neurons in their brain. So when someone has a disease, an Alzheimer's disease, they have, this is what the doctors look at the scan, at the MRI. And if they see some dark areas, it could be that it's Alzheimer's. Now, they always say it's probable Alzheimer's. They never say, when it's diagnosed, or even where it's categorized as it is, it's called probable Alzheimer's, because they're 99% that is Alzheimer's, but they're not 100% until there's an autopsy of the brain, and they're 100% sure that it's Alzheimer's. And this is also used to rule out other things. So if the person has memory problems and this is normal, then they start ruling out Alzheimer's, and they look, okay, What's their depression like? Have they had a stroke? So the course of the illness, the beginning, the moderate, and the severe. And I'm just going to go through this real quick because I have another slide, more details about this, about the stages. But real quick, the middle, the beginning, forgetfulness, word finding, problems, shopping, calculations. In the middle, more moderate, they have more impairments, wandering, getting lost, difficult dressing, insomnia. And in the end stage, or the severe stages, sometimes the person doesn't talk, doesn't recognize family, doesn't recognize themselves. They have problems. They're totally dependent with their activities of daily living, dressing, bathing, and walking until the person is bedbound. So this is the progression of the brain over time. And again, you'll see the changes. This is what I talked about before about the most types of irreversible dementias. The most common, these are just basic statistics. The most common, like you see, is Alzheimer's disease, AD, followed by vascular disease, and then you have Lewy body, dementia of the Lewy body type, and then frontal temporal dementia, and then others, because there's a variety. But the most common type is Alzheimer's disease. I just had some examples of early stage of a woman, 73 years old, widowed, who lived alone. Her friends often told her that she forgets things. She thought, she really didn't know it. So this person, Maria, does feel that she has more difficulty reading, concentrating on articles in the news, which often make her feel unintelligent. So she kind of notices something is going on in her brain. She also realizes that she can't find the right words when she needs it, and that it's something in her brain, something's going on, but she can't get it out. Her children feel that sometimes she has difficulties paying her bills correctly, or forgets to buy stuff in the store. Maria doesn't let her memory problems affect her, so she finds different ways to deal with it. But this gets her anxious. So these are just an example of early stage. She's a elderly woman living alone, trying to live independently, but she notices that she's having more problems. So with short-term memory, in concentration, in problem finding. So another example, a middle stage person, George, who's 85 years old. He's married. He spends most days sitting in the house watching TV. George asks the same questions to his wife. So there's something also common, asking the same question over and over. Mm-hmm. And what day it is, or sometimes like, what are you doing? What time we're going to the doctor? What time we're going to the doctor? And like repeating the same thing over and over. George doesn't seem to want to talk about things, so he's more withdrawn from things, and he talks, and he has more difficult taking in long sentences. Oftentimes, people with Alzheimer's have problems with long sentences, so it's short and direct. When it turns 4 o'clock, he changes. He becomes more confused, and he starts pacing back and forth. And some people call this sundowning, where the person gets agitated once the sun goes down. And late stage. So this lady is 90 years old. She's living in her home with round-the-clock care, 24-hour care of a home health aide with family member. She's not able to talk to her family anymore. But she gives them a smile here and there. She needs help doing everything, bathing, dressing, grooming, and is unable to control her bodily function. So at this stage, the person is very advanced where they need total care. So agitation. What is agitation when a person has Alzheimer's? They're also known as inappropriate behaviors, disruptive behaviors. disrupting behaviors, and types. So we're talking about physical versus verbal agitation. Physical, hitting, biting, scratching, kicking, punching, touching. So these are examples of physical agitation. And verbal, obviously, if a person starts cursing or screaming, those are types of a verbal type of agitation. Needs. So now we're going to briefly touch on caregivers. Well, before that, the unmet needs. When someone has, when they have changes in behavior, sometimes the person with Alzheimer's doesn't know how to express themselves, doesn't know how to say, I have pain, and they scream or they push, and it could be that they're in pain, for example, or they use diapers and they need to be changed. They feel bored, they get lonely, so they express different things, different behaviors expressed when their needs aren't met. These are some of the interventions, the antipsychotics. I'm not going to get that much into it, but antipsychotics are often medication to help the person with behavior disturbance. So there's people with Alzheimer's who have behavior disturbance. They're physically agitated, they're verbally agitated. They sometimes give these medications also sleep, or they're a danger also to the person. So there's the conventional or the atypical type of antipsychotics. There's mood stabilizers, antidepressants, for example, like Lexapro, and a whole Wellbutrin, a whole bunch of different types of antidepressants. And then obviously the memory medications, Namenda, Aricept, etc. So those are just examples of type of medications that are treated for, that people who have Alzheimer's are given. Okay, so sometimes people don't want medications, or families don't want them to take medications. So these are some other examples.
So that's fine when they don't want the,
yeah, so a lot of people say, they come in.
They get worse with the medicines. I know.
Well, studies have shown that people, like there was a big Aricept study, for example, the donepezil, and this was a study by the pharmaceutical company, so it might be a little biased, but they said that they looked at, I don't know, a few thousand people who were on the medication and people who weren't on it, and they showed that people who were on it had the tendency to be able to retain more information. Not a cure, because it's progressive, so over time it's going to continue to decline, but they're able to retain more over time, versus people who were not on medication, where they had a quicker decline. A study. So, people sometimes I don't want, they say, okay, there's a memory medication, they don't take it. Or the family says, I don't want them on these medications, it's not going to help. They have side effects. There's, for example, Aricept has, some people have diarrhea, severe diarrhea when they take Aricept. And other people don't have no type of secondary, or people are able to get drowsy, so they take it at night versus in the morning. So if they could choose to take medication with a different type of intervention, or without it. So it's soft music. So it's looking at the senses, the hearing, the smelling, the touching.
Let me ask you a question. I know people they have different medicine, like at night, and I know this lady, one gives like all the medicine together with the one with your, like Alzheimer's, and others say no. I like to give the Alzheimer's.
Everybody's different.
Like they don't work together. Yeah. Because I find.
Or sometimes the one medication gets the person too drowsy or tired. So
oh yes, I went to the hospital one day. The lady said, "Oh no, I'm falling."
Yeah.
When they
And that's
take
what
the
it needs to
medicine.
be, documented to see what's going on at that time and at what time the person gives. And also what other medications are, and that goes to, to what you were saying about medication, because it could be the interaction with certain medications. And it needs to be separated, or, what medication has to be changed. Pet therapy, dolls, dance therapy. These are different type of activities that are done usually in day programs for dementia. So there's day programs around the city that focus on different stages of when a person has dementia, or early stage or more advanced stage, and they have different activities just to stimulate memory, just to and to have some a program for the person. So effective communication with the person with dementia. Stay calm, consistent, and concise. When you talk to someone who has dementia and you're screaming or you're agitated, they absorb that, they feel that. And sometimes if you're screaming and yelling, then they'll start, they feel that, they feel that type of energy. A smile goes a long way, and you can imagine how much a smile could change a person. And redirect. So when there is an agitation, for example, either a physical or verbal agitation, is redirect the person. Try not to argue. If they say that's blue, that's blue. If it's day, it's day. If, why are you gonna argue? Just go along and don't argue. And try not to make the person even more confused. Create a routine. So structure. When creating a routine, this means trying to arrange something every day. This is what we do in the morning. Everything is an activity. Morning, breakfast, an activity. Everything. And different activities for the person, so they won't be in front of the TV all day. And there's people that say, I don't want to go out. I'm gonna stay here. And sometimes it's so hard to get a father or a husband who refuses to do everything. Negatives into positives. Turning long explanations into short. And using statements rather than questions. Okay, so if a person asks you what day it is, what would you do? Say, okay, today is Monday. The person asks you again what day it is, and say, okay, today's Monday. Can you tell me what today is? So you can repeat that, so you could at least stay there a little bit, so the memory will retain it. But with someone with Alzheimer's, in 15 minutes, they're going to say the same thing. So that's why it goes back, be calm. So talking to your doctor what to do, you usually go with the person with who has problems with the memory with them to the doctor. And usually the doctors have such, short time. Sometimes it's good to write down each question you have or concern. That way when you go in there, you go with your questions. So evaluating, this is an important thing, is evaluating the changes, the behavior changes. If something is going on, is what's going on in their environment. What time, the noise, maybe it's day, maybe it's night, maybe there's a lot of noise from outside. What's going on in the at that time of the behavior? Is it 3 o'clock? Is it in the morning? Is it at night? Stress and caregiving. Last one. Stress and caregiver. So stress is a normal reaction to change physically and mentally, and is a response. Stress is not, everybody has certain type of stress, and all these things happen. Your blood pressure increases, your hormones change, your liver releases the stored sugar, your muscles tense up. So all these major things in stress and caregiving that happen, especially if you're repeating certain things or you have to deal with behavior. Support groups and counseling. So research has found that talking about how you feel helps. Just expressing yourself.